It was, so these men, these Australians, were not Christians, obviously.
No.
They were part of his team, or they were volunteers, or what were they? Were they actually digging?
They were digging. Whether he paid them or not, I have no idea.
Well, what were the other cameramen doing that were there before you got there?
Some of those people were helping to dig, and some I didn't figure out what they were doing.
Now, when you say dig, you mean to make the entrance hole larger, or?
No, there was actually a hole there. There was a hole there, and you'd go down probably 10 or 15 feet.
Straight down?
It's almost straight down, that you could be let down into this hole. And then it became a very small area where it was like a little tunnel. So they had little tiny, I'm not talking about big shovels, but little tiny digging with. What interested me after several days, and we knew that we were going to have to be leaving, Ron said, I said, where's your original hole? And he said, original entry is right here. And over to the left of where these men were digging, for instance, let me give you an example. They were digging this direction. He says the Ark of the Covenant was here. So my little mind says, why are we digging this way and then this way when the Ark of the Covenant is over here? Because he says the original hole is right here. It looked like it was probably no more than 24 inches in diameter, possibly a little more. He said, this is where I dropped down, and here's where I said, why don't we do that? And he said, well, a lot of rock fell in when I was leaving. A rock came in and filled up that hole. And I still, in my little mind, I'm not an archaeologist, and I said, it sure seems like it'd be much easier to go down and dig out that rock, you know, take buckets and hand it up, than it would be digging through hard dirt and ground and running through rocks and all kinds of things here below the city, closer to the original site of the city. Why, I don't understand.
So that was the reason he said you couldn't go down there, because this rock had fallen?
Yeah, rock had fallen, gravel and loose rock had fallen in, and it made it where he couldn't get...
Were you afraid, or was anyone afraid that they might be covered up or another rock fall would come?
He just said it's too dangerous to go down that hole, so I'm having them dig around another way.
Now, I understand that the lawyer, Harold Follett, did go down that hole, but there was some deep opposition to him going down there.
There was a lot of opposition because Ron didn't want him to go. When we saw, Ron didn't show an interest. He didn't have a new machine. I asked him, he brought some little graphic type machine that would make lines, and it was an old machine. I said, where's the new one? And he said, well, I just didn't get one. I'll get one at another time. He told us the whole reason he needed this money was not for payment, but was just for, you know, this, just for this machine.
Did he need it for your coming, or just for some
Well,
later?
he needed this to buy this machine because it would help us really get the Ark of the Covenant, you know, to find it better, because his old machine wasn't that accurate, he said. And so when we were there, several days went by. We were getting ready a day or two before we left, and we realized that this man's not interested. They're finding nothing over here. The man that comes up, we then by this time was able to go down, saw nothing there. We're going to end up going home. So I said to him, Ron, why don't you're not down here? Well, they're doing it, and only so many people can go anyway. And, you know, it doesn't look like possibly we're going to find it this time. So he said, what I'd like to do is 6 months or so from now, he said, maybe I'll come back and we'll dig again. And I said, well, if the Ark of the Covenant's here, he said, well, I have another trip planned. And I said, but if we know this is it, this is the biggest news, you know, I mean, this is going to be world news. Why wouldn't you spend the next, we'll stay a few more extra days. It suddenly began to occur to me, he knew that there was no Ark of the Covenant there, and the garden tomb in this cave. I've been in there a number of times now, and I go down, and Ron knew it. So our attorney felt very responsible. He had actually raised the $10,000 from one of our board members.
No, I want to get this clear. I understood that by 1982, at least this is what I've read, and this is what I've been told by one of his keenest supporters, that he discovered the Ark of the Covenant in 1982. You were there either 1989 or 1990,
yeah.
7 or 8 years later. If he'd already found it, wouldn't it have been an easy thing for him to take someone down and find or view the Ark that he had found?
If I thought about it over there, if I knew the Ark of the Covenant was here, I can't imagine doing anything else till I found it. There's only a few feet of digging, 30 feet, even the way he went. I mean, that only takes so long. It doesn't take 7 or 8 years. But what I have found out, he'd taken numbers of other people besides just us. I think he's done this probably over the years a number of times, and I don't know it for a fact, but from what I can understand in the picture I get, many people have donated lots of money thinking this was going to happen. And of course it didn't. When we went down, Harold Follett said, I'm going to go, you know, I feel responsible. I've got Danny involved, 3ABN, I've got this donor involved. I feel responsible. So he said one night, I'm going to go down in this original hole. And Ron said, you're not going to go in that original hole. And so they were on the street corner there in Jerusalem. And when Harold insisted, Ron threatened to, I don't know the right terms, but threatened to hit him. And I actually was in between them, not a place I wanted to be, ever liked to be, but I was like trying to stop this. And Ron told me, if you don't get him away from me, you know, something to the term, I'm going to punch his lights out. I couldn't give you the exact words, but that type of phraseology, I'm going to punch his lights out. And I'm saying, so why are you so upset? Because we just want to do what you've told us was there, and why shouldn't he go see?
Well, I have interviewed Attorney Follett on the phone. And without asking him, he told me much the same story, that he'd been seriously threatened and it almost came to blows. Why did Wyatt not want you to go down that hole? Was he afraid for your life?
That's what he said. He said, I'm afraid it's too dangerous. And Harold said, well, basically in so many words, I'm an adult. I've been taking care of myself all these years. I'm responsible. You're not responsible. I want to go down. We found the truth why he didn't want us to go down, because we did get a rope and light, and Harold took a little pick. And my brothers and I, we went against Ron's, even though Ron was very upset. And we went on that evening. I remember that it was raining. And we went over into the garden tomb and went down. And Harold went to the hole. We let him down, very tight fit. He actually had to hold his hands above him in order to get down. When he got very low, we could still talk to him. We had rope under his armpit so we could get him back up. And when he got to the bottom, he said it did open up, just as Ron had said. There was maybe a little 5x5 room. The only difference is with flashlight and a little pick, it was solid rock all the way around. The hole went nowhere. The cave just stopped. There had never been
No passageway leading in any direction?
No, solid. You can, and you don't have to be an archaeologist or someone very intelligent to know when you're against solid rock that's been there for thousands of years.
Now, you told me that the rock had fallen down, or at least
Ron had
told you that large amount of rock had fallen down into that cave, and that's what made it impassable.
Yeah, that's what he said. But again, as I've already mentioned, it was solid all the way around. When we brought Harold up, he said, absolutely is as solid as any rock that you see around here. There's never been an opening. Nothing was ever filled. And so that, of course, was the reason Ron didn't want us to go down. We surmised that. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out, because now, you know, he's been exposed.